thing is, until you can erase 3 Februaries, shut up. Bang! Quality over quantity. LeBron has beaten some of the best competition in NBA history. He's the GOAT emoji. I will not cuss. I will not cuss. I will not swear. I will not swear.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
Welcome, one and all, to the Brian Snow Show. I am obviously not Brian Snow. My name is Ryan McCarthy, a.k.a. Ryan McCawfee, as Mr. Snowman likes to affectionately call me. This is another edition of the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. And thank you to everyone who's watching, whether on YouTube, on Facebook, or on CSTV out in Nevada. I appreciate you stopping by this afternoon. Whether you're watching live or watching on replay, I want to thank you for joining in. And again, I want to thank Brian Snow for giving me the opportunity to take over his show for the next couple days. I was live on Monday, which was pretty fun. I had a lively discussion by myself, but also in the chat about a myriad of topics. We're going to do a myriad of topics today too. So I want to bring in my guest, my honored guest. He is the host of the Captain Lou Extravaganza, my buddy from Belly Up Sports. This is Mr. Lou Gamelin. Lou, how are we doing this afternoon, buddy?
Ryan, I'm fantastic, man. I appreciate the chance to come on with you. It's always a treat.
Always a treat. I know you've been on my show, No Credentials Required, a couple times, and we've had some great discussions there. We've got some great things to talk about this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we're going to do at the top of the hour is do a live reaction to the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions. Today is the Hockey Hall of Fame induction. There are a myriad of eligible players still looking to either be inducted for the first time or looking to get their chances in going into the Hall of Fame. So we wish everyone who is eligible the best of luck. Hope you get in. There's plenty of people, I'm sure, Lou, you've got your eye on, and I know you're from the Michigan area. You're a big Detroit sports fan, and I'm sure there's a couple of guys who are former Red Wings who are on your mind going for the Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah, obviously I'd love to see Chris Osgood get in. He's got 3 Stanley Cup rings, 401 wins. A little surprised he's not in, and the knock is he's played on teams that are enriched with Hall of Famers, including another one that I think should get in. He may not, is Henrik Zetterberg. I think he's right on the cusp. I don't know if he'll make it this year, but those are the 2 I'm kind of keeping an eye on. And, Brian, I looked at the list of people that are not in there, and it does surprise me a little bit. Guys like Theo Fleury and whatnot, Mike Vernon maybe. But, it's going to be exciting to see who gets in.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list of first-year eligible NHL players this year, and you got Jay Bouwmeester, Ron Hainsey, Dan Heimhuis, Alex Steen, Justin Williams, who I hope gets in that guy was clutch in the playoffs.
Yes.
Kind of hope to see him in the Hall of Fame. Corey Crawford, a couple Stanley Cups and a World Cup title. Jimmy Howard, he's eligible. Henrik Lundqvist, he's eligible. And I'm looking at the list of names that are still not in the Hall of Fame. Peter Bondra is not a Hall of Famer. Peter Bondra, Vincent Demfus, he's not a Hall of Famer. Shane Doan, Ray Ferraro, Patrick Elias from my New Jersey Devils, he's not a Hall of Famer. Bill Guerin is not a Hall of Famer. He's a current GM with the Minnesota Wild. He's also played on a couple of Stanley Cup teams with the Pittsburgh Penguins and my New Jersey Devils. So it's a pretty interesting list of players who are eligible, who are not in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But hopefully this afternoon, like around 3:00 hour, we'll do a live reaction to the inductees of the Hall of Fame. So we're going to get going and start off with some Major League Baseball talk. Let's talk about, and again, Lou, I know you're a Michigan sports fan. How's your Detroit Tigers season? What's your opinion on the Detroit Tigers season so far?
Well, I mean, as sad as it is, they came in today only 4 games out of first place, and I think they're 9 games below 500. They can't hit. It's kind of frustrating to watch. The pitching isn't bad, and I'm not going to use injuries as an excuse. Everybody's got them. They're not a good team. I liken them to maybe the Astros of 2013, or the team that we're going to talk about from a couple of years ago in the Cincinnati Reds, or last year. They're young. It's going to be interesting to see if some of the guys that they've drafted recently, like Casey Mize and Matt Manning and whatnot, if they can get back healthy, what that brings to Detroit. But I mean, we're light years away. It's like we're fielding a AAA team against, teams like the Yankees and the Orioles. And
hey, don't insult the Oakland A's that way, okay?
Oh, okay. Right. I mean, we're playing a Kansas City team today that is rivaling Oakland as the worst team in the league. And, hope Detroit just went ahead 3-2, I saw. So, maybe they can take 2 out of 3 from them.
There you go. So let's talk about one of the things that has been on my mind for the last week or so. That's the Cincinnati Reds. They've won 10 games in a row and are suddenly taking first place in the NL Central. Is this a big surprise to you, Lou?
Oh, it's a surprise. I mean, how many years have they been the sexy pick to finally break through to win the National League Central? They're kind of, they're young, obviously. Maybe they're kind of like last year's Baltimore Orioles. Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm also surprised at how lackluster their division is. I'm not going to take anything away from the Reds. They're above 500, 10 games above, and they get Joey Votto back now. He's pretty fired up. I watched an interview with him this morning on Dan Patrick, I believe it was, and pretty cool dude. And he was talking about Ellie De La Cruz. Keep an eye on this guy. I guess he's claiming that he's got Aaron Judge type power, which I wouldn't know if I'd go that far yet.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch.
But you know what? They're getting pitching, and they're fun to watch. And, you hear this, Ryan, a lot of times about when a certain team wins, it's good for the sport. I think Cincinnati being relevant because of their historical value is great for the sport. Like, back in the 70s with the Big Red Machine, and toward, the end of the 80s when Pete Rose was managing them, when they had Barry Larkin and whatnot, they were fun to watch. And this team, I think, is an up and comer, and I'm happy that they're relevant, at least up until probably, going into July.
Yeah, it's a NL Central, like the AL Central it's meh right now, kind of shaky. But for a while, it was between Pittsburgh and Milwaukee for first place in the division. Pittsburgh's been on a bit of a slump. Milwaukee's been on a bit of a slump. The Cubs have kind of come up in the rankings, but all of a sudden you see the Cincinnati Reds. They're a scrappy team. They don't have a whole lot of power. Right. I believe there's only one player in the lineup who has more than 10 home runs, and that's Jonathan India. He's got 10 home runs, and Ellie De La Cruz. And it's not, I wouldn't say a coincidence, but it's very curious that De La Cruz is called up, and then a couple games after he gets warmed up, the Reds go on a heater.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's fun to watch them, and they play an exciting brand of baseball. It's almost old school, and it's kind of refreshing for a guy like me who's, not really still caught on to the analytics thing.
I've gone on plenty of, I wouldn't say rants, but a lot of musings about analytics in baseball and how it's taken away from the manager's ability to get a feel for the game.
Yeah,
and I don't like it.
And I don't want to get off the tangent too much, but I was watching last night. I wish I could remember who it was. It was highlights of the Detroit game, and they were talking about how mentally tough the Royals starting pitcher had to be to go 7 innings and throw 80 pitches. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me! 80 pitches and. I don't want to go be that old guy, but 80 pitches isn't anything. I mean, you can throw that in a little league game. And I'm sorry, it's just analytics to me. That's no.
No, and I get old school guys like Dusty Baker who are still managing in baseball, who just won his first, God bless him, won his first World Series title last year with the Houston Astros. He's still chugging along in his 70s, and he's got that feel for the game. He's got that feel for the game. I mean, even though the Astros didn't, they're starting to come along too. A couple of games out from first in the AL West. I'm pretty sure that by like you said, Lou, by July, things will be a lot different. But speaking of the Rangers, last night Bruce Bochy got ejected from the Rangers game against the Chicago White Sox in a very controversial call. I mean, if you want to give us I read a little bit of the situation, but why don't you give us a bit more analysis on what happened there?
Ryan, what happened was there was a play at the plate, and I think it was Andrews for the White Sox, if I'm not mistaken, was coming around third, and he slid in and was called out. The catcher, and the name escapes me, for Texas, was ruled to have he was in the runner's path, if you will, and obstructed the run to the plate. And for that instance, they overturned the call. I've looked at it 100 times. I heard about it last night, and I watched it again this morning, and he had a foot on the plate. To me, it was a bad call. I almost thought he beat the throw, but he didn't. When they super slow-moed it, he was tagged out right as he is about to touch the plate. And so after that, he got called out. They reversed it, and they said he impeded their progress. And it's like, I thought it was a poor call. I thought Bochy had the right to come out and complain, and it was a rough call. And I don't know, man. I don't know.
Having his foot on the plate, the catcher's having his foot on the plate is a lot more different than blocking the plate, period. Right?
Yeah, I agree. And I get why they abolished the rule of running over the catcher. Just ask Ray Fosse.
I was going to say, ask him.
And I understand why they did that. They want to make it safe. I mean, I've been in enough baseball games in my life where I've seen guys up close, bowl over the catcher, and they're sitting ducks. And I saw Kirk Gibson do it a couple of times back in the 80s. And I could see that, but the catcher has a right to make a play on it too. And there was in my opinion, there was over half the plate available for the guy to make the slide, and he slid inside and he was tagged out. But again, and the umpires didn't make the call. And that was the other thing that was frustrating. They reviewed it, and it went to a review into New York or wherever it goes, and they reversed it. And that just couldn't believe it. Just absolutely couldn't believe it. It was a poor call. Bochy had the right to be upset after the game, and even the Chicago announcers were a little bit stunned by it.
Yeah, that's saying something. So we're going to take our first commercial break for this edition of the Brian Snow Show, hosted by myself, Ryan McCarthy, and with my guest, Lou Gamelin of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So we'll be right back with more sports talk here on the Brian Snow Show. Ryan McCawfee, take over.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
This planet has been great to me. It's given me gifts that I can't even explain. It's given me adventures and memories I'll never forget. And Battleborn, I think, has given me the opportunity to go beyond and give something back. How can I be a better custodian to this planet and the place I live? That's where I am with Battleborn. Let's make the planet a better place.
Hey everybody, Brian Snow here. Want to do some afternoon sports talk with me and be interactive? Also meet some great guests from every walk of life? Then tune in to the Brian Snow Show on CSTV and CSTVnow.com. Weekdays at 2 p.m. Come on aboard and enjoy the ride.
PK Tire Pro is your one-stop on-the-spot auto service headquarters for a complete line of quality tires and auto services. For years, we have provided the Stockton, California area with the latest products and unprecedented services for everything we sell. And for years, our customers have been coming back. Take a look around. If you don't find what you need, visit us in Stockton, California. From the latest and best in tire technology to the services required to keep your vehicle looking good and running great, PK Tire Pros can get you out on the road quickly and at an affordable price. Stop by soon to see why so many people consider PK Tire Pros to be the one-stop shop for all of their tire needs. At PK Tire Pros, our friendly and knowledgeable staff, quick and dependable service professionals, and affordable prices all come together to make driving out on a new set of tires easy. On top of that, we never tire of tires. Stop by and see us, and you'll be glad you did.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is The Brian Snow Show.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Brian Snow Show, hosted by myself, Ryan McCarthy. This is the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. And with me is my buddy Lou Gamelin from the Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast. Before we go on to talk some more about baseball, we got to take a visit to the comment section brought to you by Fanatics. We've got Chris Dietz from the Fifth Down Sports Show. What's up, Mr. McCawfee? Thanks for producing yesterday. No problem. Happy to help out in a pinch, be behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons so we can get our commercial breaks in. Drew Willingham, my buddy D. Willie, who is the host of the In or Out Sports Debate. I will be on his show on Tuesday at 7:05 p.m. He'll be actually hosting tomorrow's Brian Snow Show. He says, "What's up, fellas? What's going on, Drew?" Chris Dietz continues to say they're continually taking baseball out of baseball. I do not disagree there. And he also says analytics take all strategy out of the game. There are ways to block the plate without getting run over. Absolutely. I played catcher. I know there's ways to not get run over when you're trying to block the plate or trying to prevent a run. And there's plenty of creative ways to do that without getting your body in front of the plate. So that call just seemed very iffy.
100%.
And we talk about officiating in all areas of sports, all sports. NFL, which I think the NFL needs to really. I've been saying that I said it last year. I think the NFL this postseason, and I really hope in the offseason they really sat down with their officials, with their head officiating, and said, "Look, we got to tighten up on the calls. We got to let the defense play defense sometimes." I think the NFL, did you know? I don't know if you know this, Lou. The NFL is the only league that does not have full-time officials.
That's amazing. It's overdue, if you ask me.
Way overdue for the amount of money that league makes every year. To not have A, full-time officials, and B, beg, borrow, and steal from public officials to try to get new stadiums built. You can do all that yourselves, guys. Come on. I mean, you make that kind of money and you can't have a full-time officiating.
And getting back to that game last night, Ryan, that wasn't the referees made the right call. It was the review people,
the original call,
wherever
the original
they were at.
Call. Yeah.
And I get it. I get why there's instant replay. It's funny. I since day one, when they instituted it in the NFL back in the late 80s or whatever it was, I was vehemently against it because it does take the human element out. And I understand that when there's egregious calls, they got to be overturned. I totally get that. The referees are 98% of the time they're spot on. And this is the frustrating part of the game. And, I don't know, when you've got a collection of people watching it with all the technology back in New York or wherever it was they saw that and still called that, again, I'm not going to get into it anymore, but just a totally blown call and it wasn't the referee's fault.
Yeah. Speaking of New York, last night we had a pretty competitive game between the New York Yankees and the Seattle Mariners. My New York Yankees, they snapped a losing streak, and their struggles, I've documented them on Monday. So after this show, go back and watch. I'll talk about that. But last night there was a very interesting interaction between one of the coaches for the Seattle Mariners and New York Yankees starter Garrett Cole. I guess what happened was that, and Garrett, the way Garrett Cole saw it was that their bench coach was doing a finger wave at Garrett Cole. Well, after he sat down as a Mariners batter on his way back to the Yankees dugout, looked back at that coach for the Mariners and did one of these, a la Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah.
So I love the sport. I happen to love sportsmanship in sports. I love the I guess you could say over enthusiasm at times of players. Not so much the taunting aspect, but just the upsmanship of the players to either other players or coaches. What do you think of that, Lou? What do you think of the no finger wave by by Garrett Cole?
I don't necessarily think the batter from Seattle, he's the ninth batter in the order. I don't think he was trying to show up Cole. That's what he does. These guys, he did it within the rules. He had to be set by 8 seconds, and he did it. Yeah, he's a little showmanship. I don't think he was directing anything personally at Cole. And if I was, and here's the thing, back in the day, again, you could throw a little, not really chin music, but you could brush him back a little bit. Yeah. Say, hey, that's my plate too. If you're going to do that, they've taken that element out of the game. And, Scott Cervais was the bench coach that was doing the finger waving. And I guess he was saying a few other things that we can't say on this show.
No.
And, I think he was egging it on. I'm not a big Garrett Cole fan. I don't dislike him, but I'm on Cole's side on this one. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just answering him back. But I don't mind the gamesmanship. I'm not a huge fan of the bat flip and staring down the home runs. I'm warming up to it, but I'm not a huge fan of it. But I don't know what I would have done as a pitcher. If they would have done that back in the day when we were playing, they would have got one right in the wallet probably, unless the game closed. But that's how it was back then, and nobody argued about it. It's a totally different game now. And, again, this all goes back. It was within the rules. They were in the pitch clock and all this and that. So it just seems like your old Yankees are kind of in the middle of a few controversies this year with the Blue Jays and now with Seattle. And I think it's all, nothing bad. It's just adding a little spice to your season.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Cole did that on purpose just to get his bench fired up, because listen, I'll bring up the Yankee struggles again. Without Aaron Judge, without Harrison Bader in the lineup, this offense is impotent.
Oh my God.
Historically impotent. And Harrison Bader, I guess, came back to the lineup yesterday. The Yankees said that Judge was having platelet injection to heal up his broken toe, which is, I wouldn't say shocking, but it's different. It's a different treatment. It's a different treatment. I'm surprised they haven't put him in a hyperbaric chamber also. But with the Yankees struggles, I had to wonder if Cole did that on purpose. Garrett Cole did that on purpose to fire up his squad and say, hey guys, come on, you're lifeless out here. Let's get things going. And equally, I will say this, George Kirby, that guy, if that guy's not a Cy Young, if he keeps going the way he's going, he's got to be a Cy Young contender at the end of the season.
And it all begs to me back to some of the people that you guys have signed. I'm still waiting for Giancarlo Stanton to earn his money in New York. And I don't want to bring it up any bad. I don't want to get you real riled up, and because I would, as a Tigers fan right now, I would take your troubles being 6 games over 500. We'd be 3 games up in our division probably, or 4 games ahead. But yeah, I agree with, that's a great point on Cole, firing up the team. He's a veteran, he's a winner. And but I thought it was all, there was nothing egregious about that last night. I just think it was a good way for Cole to get the Yankees fired up.
Yeah, we're talking about the officiating and umpiring. Deet said it. I said it yesterday. Bring out Enrico Palazzo.
Oh boy.
He also says, I play softball in East Haven, Connecticut. We bat flip singles. I love bat flips and an expression of emotions on the field. Yeah. I mean, when back in 2020, as I call them, the bad old days, ESP, the 4-letter network, was broadcasting the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization, and bat flips are a regular occurrence when it comes to home runs. So it's not out of being disrespectful to the opponent. It's been the way it is for the last 30 years in Korean baseball.
Yeah, and again, I've warmed up to it. It's I guess there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you're going to stare down the pitcher as you're running around the bases, then okay, then you're going to get one in the wallet. But nah, I've warmed up to it. It's baseball needs that. They need some entertainment, and the new rules this year, I'm still kind of warming up. I don't mind the pitch clock. You'll never convince me that putting a runner on second base in the 10th inning is good. That's too slow pitch softballish to me. Or, and then, the shift, I'm still kind of 50-50 on that.
Do you think the bat flip thing is a generational thing?
Oh, probably.
Yeah.
It's just like doing the end zone celebrations. I mean, growing up, we never had those. I think Billy White Shoes Johnson was the first one.
That started in my generation, FYI. Just
okay.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, the bat flips, like I said, it's, and it was, I remember playing a game and again, this was in the late or mid 80s. One of our players did this and he got benched. Our coach didn't like it. So, I mean, that's how far back I go. So.
Oh man, that's crazy. All right, we're coming up against our second commercial break, but Lou, I just want to, we talked. I just want to. You brought up the celebrations with Billy White Shoes Johnson, the Fun Bunch from the Washington Redskins teams back in the '80s. That's when everything all started with the self-expression and the the NFL, aka the No Fun League. Tried to put a kibosh on that, but you saw a lot more expression in the USFL going in. If you remember the old USFL back in the early to mid 80s. I don't know if you remember the USFL. I remember I was born in New Jersey. I remember distinctly. It's that was one of New Jersey's first real team, a real football team for New Jersey was the New Jersey Generals, owned by one former president, Donald J. Trump. We won't go into how the USFL went into what happened there, but I will say it was not exclusively Trump's fault that the USFL went into the way it was, and unfortunately, the $3.76 check still exists and has not been cashed, from what I understand, over 30 years, almost 40 years later. From the ruling back in 1986.
Yeah. Oh, I get fond memories of the USFL back in the early 80s. Michigan Panthers, national win the first championship.
Bobby Hebert, Anthony Carter,
Ray Bentley, Anthony Carter. I've got a friend of mine that played for the Philadelphia Stars. He graduated from Michigan State back in the late 70s, early 80s. Wow. And he used to tell us some pretty cool stories about it, it was fun while it lasted. It was good football.
It was good football.
It was really good.
Yeah, it was good, if not great. It was even better than the NFL. It was a great alternative.
At the time, it sure was. And we had some great players come out of there to play in the NFL for a lot of years.
Yeah. And I remember the documentary, the Small Potatoes documentary, and they talked about how salaries after the USFL dissolved, salaries in the NFL exploded. Exploded. Guys were making $75,000 a year. They're working second jobs on the side, which you still see in the Canadian Football League, FYI. Yeah, you still see guys working second jobs outside of the CFL and there during the off season.
What?
But you had guys in the NFL working side jobs in the off season, and their salaries just skyrocketed.
Well, I remember
skyrocketed after USFL.
Yeah, the Houston Gamblers were trying to sign Billy Sims in 1984, and he pretty much held the Lions hostage. You know, William Clay Ford was known quite well to pinch the pennies, and they finally relented. They gave him a contract, and then, of course, in October that year, Sims blew out his knee in Minnesota on the turf out there, and he never played again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they definitely helped change the landscape of salaries in the NFL.
Now, a trivia question for you, Lou, and for anybody watching and want to chime in the chat. Who was the last USFL player to play in the NFL? He retired, I think, probably a decade ago.
Wow. Was it a kicker?
It was a punter.
A decade ago, eh?
Decade and a half ago, around that time.
Wow. But that's a good question. I don't know.
That would be Sean Landetta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
New York Giants, huh?
Yeah, his final season in the NFL was 2006. Played from 1985. Played with the Giants from 85 to, I think, let's see. Played for the Giants, and he played for the Eagles.
Okay, yes, you're right.
So
Yes.
he started with the Philadelphia Stars, who moved to Baltimore. He won 2 straight championships. He'd won back-to-back championships with them.
Mhm.
Then he went to the Giants, won a Super Bowl with them. Actually 2 Super Bowls, excuse me. They played with the Rams, the Buccaneers, then the Packers, then the Eagles, the Rams, the Eagles again, and he retired. He came back to the Giants and he retired with the Giants in 2006.
Wow, that's a great trivia question.
The last USFL player to play in the NFL retired in 2006.
Isn't that something? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great trivia question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we're just gonna get a second commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about one of the craziest stories coming out of college sports, and it's not the College World Series or college football. So we come back. This is the Brian Snow Show with Ryan McCawfee Takeover with my buddy Lou Gamelin. Stick around.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
We're not a cooking show. We're a show about cooking. We turn the camera around and point it at you. Our show takes place right inside your kitchen.
Hey y'all, Snowman here. Catch me, Cole Johnson, Wise El Jefe, and the usual cast of characters as we bring it to you every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern.
10 a.m.
It's called
Eastern.
Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson, and it's right here on CSTV and CSTVnow.com. Join us, won't you?
I'm in another lane, I'm a different breed. I'm everything you can never be. I'm next level. Next level.
Thursday nights are wrestling night on CSTV. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific to see all the amazing Next Level Pro Wrestling stars on Thursday Night Throwdown on CSTVnow.com and the CSTV app on your Roku device.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Brian Snow Show, guest hosted by yours truly, Ryan McCarthy. It's a Ryan McCawfee takeover, and today I'm joined by my buddy from the Captain Lou Extravaganza, Lou Gamelin. Lou, we've got to talk about this story out of Stephen F. Austin University, where the assistant coach abruptly resigned back in April, and the story is just coming out now. And I'm looking at the New York Post article, which was it's this just reading up on this is a crazy story. So I'll give you just a bit of background here. So the assistant coach of the Stephen F. Austin bowling team is married to the head coach, and it was discovered that he was having an affair. Not only was he having an affair, he was having an affair with a member of the bowling squad. I've rendered you speechless, haven't I?
It's you can't make this stuff up.
No, you can't.
I read the story and I read the background on it, and he's disgruntled to begin with because he was at home all the time, and then he was an unpaid assistant. And he was mad at her, and boy, what a way to take out some vengeance.
Poor baby. Oh, go stay at home with the kids. You weren't paid as a head assistant coach. Oh, so sad.
So you get carte blanche, and then he.
But this is the troubling part. Is his reaction to the entire thing. This is what he said. He said, and I quote, "I knew it was kind of a no-no. There's not a rule saying it can't happen." Which, by the way, you're atrocious. Your grammar's atrocious. Steve Lemke is his name, and he was married to the head coach Amber Lemke, and Amber Lemke had led the bowling team to 2 national titles. They both have since filed for divorce.
Mm-hmm.
He also continues to say, he says, I'm quoting again, "There's not a law saying I'm going to jail for doing something like this. There's nothing in stone. I guess it's just an ethics code. Like, we frown upon it, but there's no rule. There's no law broken." As a man of faith, I would like to disagree with that. This is just a very... It's terrible, but it's also comical in a way, based on what he's been saying.
And he also, from what I hear, he used the consenting adult argument, in which I'm sorry. I mean, there is an ethical question in it. It's no different than a teacher having an affair with a student. I think that, especially when you're married, that's insane. And to him to try to justify it, I'm at a loss for it. I really am. And, this is one of your, it's one of your players. And
that's the part that's just wrong.
Super wrong.
Like a whole new level of wrong.
It's almost like he's doing it on purpose to get back at his wife, who's the coach. And it's, I understand it's 2023, but oh my goodness, you just don't. There's certain things you don't do. There's the written law, and like you said, there's the unwritten law. And I'm sorry. I just, they say everybody makes mistakes, but 2 + 2 = 5 is a mistake. That's premeditated, and I'm sorry. That's weird.
It's not only weird. It's just it's the calculated way to go about this too. It's like, you're upset that you're at home all the time while she's on the road because she's the hired coach of the bowling team. You're an unpaid assistant, and look, handle your business at home before coming to the office.
Well,
I'm not married, Lou. I imagine you're married, and you have been for quite a while. I'm not married myself, but at least I know this is This is according to not only like just basic morality, but also in the Christian community, extramarital affairs are kind of frowned upon, and this is something that you needed to before this came. And this the part of that's wrong is that they have 5 kids,
right?
So they've already filed for divorce, but for this to come out in public like this in this sort of fashion, it's got to be embarrassing too.
Well, and here's the thing that I've never understood about something like that in a situation like this and in any other one. Do you really think that you're not going to get caught? And number 2, let's just say the young gal that he's had this affair with, what happens if he makes her mad? I mean, she's going to be holding that over his head for the rest of his life. She could blackmail him. I mean, he's just living a lie. And, I don't get it. Yeah, I've married, and I just wouldn't even think about doing something like that. And if he is that unhappy, I mean, now again, it's 2023. Divorce isn't frowned upon like it was even 40 years ago or 25 or 30 years ago. Just, end it. And to mess up somebody else's life, it's just weird, I'm kind of at a loss for that whole situation.
Yeah, according to the article I'm reading on the New York Post, it states that Amber Lemke, who is the coach of the team, she will return as head coach.
Yeah.
The Steve, who is the assistant, he will obviously not be back. He had handed in his resignation, and the student the student athlete involved in the affair will not return to the team as she has no eligibility. So her eligibility is run out. So she's gone. She will no longer be with the team. And like you said, Lou, it could come to the point where the student athlete could have blackmailed the head. Not that he has any money to blackmail with, because he's an unpaid assistant. But there are other ways to threaten somebody.
Yeah. This is a little different than Bobby Petrino going for a motorcycle ride with his secretary and then having an affair with her too. I mean, oh my goodness, I tell you, it just, you again, like I said earlier, you just can't make some of this stuff up.
And it is, yes, because it is 2023. I mean, some things that are kind of brought into the dark are brought into the light, especially with the advent of social media and instant news. It's a crazy world that we currently live in. And both of us, Lou, are in the podcast and live streaming space. So these kind of things could come up at any time.
Oh, they sure could.
Oh my goodness. So speaking of college sports, and we're going to call an audible about this. Lou, we discussed it privately and outside of the broadcast. But Bob Huggins finally gone from West Virginia University after numerous times of getting in trouble for other incidents outside of his coaching job with the slurs on a radio station, and recently he came out. He was arrested for DUI in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he finally stepped down from his position as the West Coast as the West Virginia Mountaineers head basketball coach. Is there a point where somebody gets so many chances to make amends and be a better person before you just finally have to cut ties with somebody?
Well, I think to a certain extent there is. I think he's led. He's I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for here. He's run into this situation in Cincinnati. I think he had a DUI there when he was coaching. Then he went to West Virginia, and he had the issue with the radio station thing, and we don't even know if he was sober there. And then this thing that happens in West Virginia, and I think his time has run out. And I liken this, he is a public figure, And, it may not be fair, but when you have a position like this, you're held to a higher standard. He's a leader of men and women. And, with that, with the glory and with the stature and everything, comes added responsibility where he doesn't get the anonymity of, someone like you and I, or someone with a normal day job, and I don't know. I mean, it was almost laughable. I saw a Facebook post the other day. I think his daughter posted it.
His daughter, Jackie. Yes.
Yeah. About how, they only gave him a half hour to decide whether to quit or be fired. I'm sorry. If you do something that egregious, the chancellors, the president, they have every right to fire you whenever they want.
Right.
And here's the thing, he may, quiet down, go into rehab or whatever. And Ryan, I guarantee you in 8 months or maybe at the beginning of 2024, somebody will hire him as an analyst. He's outspoken. He'll be on the 4-letter network or Fox or wherever. He's going to land on his feet. Will he coach again? Probably not, but I guarantee he's going to be making quite a handsome salary because he'll get, if he cleans up his act, that's great. Broadcasting is always an out for somebody like that who's got the personality. Mm-hmm. And, I think he was, the word I was looking for, I think he's been enabled for all these years. Right. They turned a blind eye. And once you start getting away with that stuff, he's lucky he didn't kill anybody or himself.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I don't feel sorry for the guy. He's bullied players. There's been stories about that, and, I know the coaching fraternity is rallying around him and, I get it. But he got what he deserved. And, like I said, I hope for his sake, he cleans up his act, learns from it, and he'll get a second chance in a broadcast booth somewhere and probably make quite a good living with it.
Yeah. I looked back and I did see that he did have a DUI charge when he was coaching the University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And now he has this DUI charge in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as the head coach of the West Virginia Mountaineers. Like you said, there may be at some point he might get a third chance. I don't know as a coach, maybe as a college basketball analyst. Yeah. Although you did see Rick Pitino recently,
right?
He, after his disgraceful exit from University of Louisville, went to Iona, a MAC school. I know this because I'm one of the basketball programs in my area, Siena College. They're a division rival, conference rival with Iona, and he took Iona to two straight NCAA appearances. They won the MAC tournament twice, and now he's the head basketball coach at St. John's. So he's got sort of a redemptive arc as well. Now, allegedly hiring strippers to recruit athletes is a lot different than DUI, getting caught with a blowing a .21 in Pennsylvania.
He thought he was in Columbus.
or Columbus or whatever.
That's where he thought he was when they arrested him.
Oh my goodness!
And his tire. Oh my God! Oh
yeah. I mean, we've seen redemptive arcs, redemptive career arcs before. There is a chance for. I mean, that's what America's all about. Is the
right? Oh, I get it. You're
remake your story, remake your image. Make your image, yes, then make amends and start over.
Great point. Those are all great points. And he, the Rick Pitino story is spot on, and he may get another opportunity if he wants to. I know he's almost 70, I think. Yeah. And he's the 5th all-time leader in wins.
Yeah, between Providence, Kentucky, Louisville, and Iona, and now St. John's. I believe you're right. Yeah.
So Huggins might get another opportunity, and God bless him if he does. And maybe I'm softening up a little bit, and I think, all right, let those who live in glass houses throw the first stone. I get it, and we all make mistakes. But again, I go back to, when you're drunk driving, and you could have killed somebody or yourself, and they said the tire, he shattered the tire on his SUV, and He didn't even know where he was. And that's hard for me to look past. And, I hope he does clean up his act. And, and we'll see what happens.
So Bob Huggins is 4th all time.
Okay.
In wins. With, let's see. Got to scroll over here. With Walsh University of Akron, Cincinnati, Kansas State, and West Virginia. And Rick Pitino, surprisingly, is only 34th.
Wow.
All time. He's only 34th all time with 36th all time with 684 wins. But here's Rick Pitino's career. You want to hear this career?
Yeah.
So he started at the University of Hawaii.
Oh boy.
Then he went to Boston University. Went up at Providence, then Kentucky. Then he went to the pros and coached for the Boston Celtics a couple seasons. Yep. That was a debacle in itself.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Good Lord. Let's see. Where was I? Where is it? Then Louisville came back in 2000 and 2001, coached Louisville until 2017, and then Iona, and now he's with St. John's. So,
well, that he had his bags packed to go to Ann Arbor to be the coach at Michigan right before Louisville, and his wife kind of vetoed that. She didn't like Ann Arbor. She preferred Louisville, the city. And it was a done deal. And I want to say it was right before, oh my gosh, the coach at Harvard. Oh man, drawing a blank. The old Duke player that took the job at Michigan.
Bobby Amaker. Tommy Amaker.
Tommy Amaker. Yes. And yeah. And the deal was done. And he was ready to come to Ann Arbor. And she put the veto to it. And yeah, that's legendary. Then he went to Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to take one more commercial break before the top of the hour. When we come back, Hockey Hall of Fame. We're going to do a live reaction to the inductees for the class of 2023. So stick around for more of the Brian Snow Show. This is the Ryan McCawfee Takeover with my special guest, Lou Gamelin. Stick around.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something.
I finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Yo, camping buddy. Okay, you guys ready?
Dude, I thought you were driving.
I thought you were driving.
Oh, I never said I was driving.
I definitely can't drive.
Okay.
If you're high, just don't drive. It's illegal everywhere. If you feel different, you drive different.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes.
Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
How many letters?
5 letters.
Just think about, what am I doing right now?
Smile. Smile?
Uh-huh.
This is so easy.
Thing is, until you can erase 3 Februaries, shut up.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Brian Snow Show, the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I am your host this afternoon. I'll be on tomorrow as well. And on Friday, as I announced earlier, our buddy Drew Willingham from the In and Out Sports Debate will be on to host Friday's show. And Snowman should be back on Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern and 11 p.m. Pacific. With me is my friend from Belly Up Sports, the host of the Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast, Lou Gamelin. He is with me today. And before we go into the Hockey Hall of Fame, they haven't quite announced the inductees just yet. Take a quick trip to the Fanatics feedback zone. And Chris Dietz said he had Sean Lunda typed in. Yeah, he played forever. He played for 22 seasons, I believe. So it's crazy how kickers and punters are always the ones who have the longest lifespan of every player. It's crazy. Well, besides Tom Brady, but that's another subject we'll get into another time. He also goes on to say, we're talking about the Stephen F. Austin bowling coach and her husband. Says sounds like a bad episode of Law and Order SVU. Yeah,
no kidding.
Without the murders, yes,
exactly. Wow.
Mickey Delaney checking in on Facebook. He says, "Hi guys, hi Mickey. Glad you're with us, and I hope you're enjoying the show." Yeah. Snowman checking in from Branson, Missouri. He's there with his wife for vacation. Hopefully there to see Andy Williams. Oh wait, dang it, he's gone. But still, he checks in. He says, "Hey." And Dietz answered Tony Amaker. They meant Tommy. They said fat fingers. Yeah, I get it. I got fat fingers.
I'm right there with you. I'm guilty as charged.
Oh, goodness gracious. So we're still waiting. I'm still waiting on the Hockey Hall of Fame inductees. They haven't announced that on their Twitter channel. It's supposed to be on TSN in Canada. Sadly, I can't access it because I need a subscription to access it.
Oh.
So, of course I do. But it's just interesting. I at the top of the hour, I read a bunch of names who are eligible for this year, who are first-year nominees, and there's some pretty fascinating names that have not been inducted into the Hall of Fame that are still eligible. And what I find fascinating about the Hockey Hall of Fame, like unlike baseball or football, there's no legacy, and there's no limits as to how many times somebody can be nominated. I think the Baseball Hall of Fame needs to change that election structure, because there are so many great players from the mid 90s to 2000s. We could go on and on about debate and why they should be there. I mean, look, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, I think they've paid their penance enough about the steroid era, which I'm of a conspiracy theory that Bud Selig enabled that stuff.
Oh, I'm right
He
there
wanted
with
to
you.
go on. He wanted to
turned
go
a
on.
blind eye.
He turned a blind eye because he wanted the ratings. He wanted the attention for baseball because it wasn't getting it after the 1994 strike that ended the baseball season, which the Yankees and the Expos should have met in the World Series.
Yes.
And we still have baseball in Montreal, which I'm still kind of bitter about to this day, not because I'm from Montreal, but I have friends up there who are sympathizers with the fact that baseball was stolen from them.
Yeah.
But with trying to bring baseball back to the forefront, I believe that Bud Selig, with all of his conniving and all of his says everything he's saying about doing the right thing and suspending players for illegal drug use, which, look, if you look at it, Andro, the stuff that Mark McGwire is taking is for recovery, primarily for recovery. And I do my research about supplements and which supplements to take and which ones are illegal. Andro at the time was a legal substance. It was used for recovery.
Yeah, I agree with you that Bud Selig took a blind eye, in '98. You knew something was going on with McGwire and Sosa and, then Barry Bonds after that. The crazy thing, I still think Bonds juiced up. He was such a great ball player in the early '90s. He would have been in the Hall of Fame just on those credentials. I think ultimately they will get in, and I think there may be an asterisk. It's like the dead ball era. I'm not a fan of them. I think they did kind of maybe cheat the game a little bit, but I also think they were enabled, and then after 2003, when they really started to crack down on it, I don't know. I go back and forth on it, Ryan. I really do. It's like the Pete Rose thing. I mean, I go back and forth on that too. I think they've got his bat in there. They've got his ball in there from breaking the hits, all this and that. He cheated. He gambled, no doubt about it. And it's posted plain as day in there. You can't do it. I get it. And the only reason he admitted it was, because he had to, and thought maybe it would, if he'd have came clean in '89, I think he'd probably be in by now.
I gotta say this. I always ask people this when they say, "Oh, Barry Bonds shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Mark McGwire shouldn't be on the Hall of Fame. Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro, Dodger Clemens, they shouldn't be on the Hall of Fame." Well, let me ask you this: who hit all those home runs? Was it the steroids, or was it the player? Who had those batting averages for such a long time? Who had all those strikeouts for such a long time? And there are a lot worse things that have happened in Major League Baseball that don't involve steroids or don't involve needles or over-the-counter drugs that are somehow now illegal in the baseball. Talk about the gambling thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that are much darker. I mean, think about the New York Mets during the 1980s.
Oh boy.
We talk about the New York Knicks being a cocaine circus in 1973 during when Phil Jackson mentioned it in The Last Dance. The New York Mets was not only was a cocaine 5-ring circus.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
they were not just a 3-ring circus; they were a 5-ring circus.
Oh my gosh, Doc Gooden and Darryl Strawberry. Oh my Lord, leading the way.
Well, not only them, but also you don't forget Keith Hernandez was brought in front of a federal court.
Yes, that's right.
And they purposely turned up the heat in that courtroom so you see him sweating, and the media thought he was absolutely positively guilty of taking cocaine.
Yeah,
which he admitted, he was, but he says, the FBI did dirty tricks. They did dirty tricks to get me to admit I took cocaine.
They let convicted felons in. I mean, I know Ferguson Jenkins is very well liked, but he's a convicted, drug felon. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think it's hypocritical.
It's not the Hall of Fame. It's not the Hall of Fame I'm not a fan of. It's the Baseball Writers of Association of
Okay.
America that I'm not a fan of.
All right, fair enough. But I think that, I think they're guilty too. And, I just think the standards have been let up a little bit to let some players in that shouldn't be in there, and we could go round and round on that. I mean,
my issue is that the Baseball Writers Association, Professional Baseball Writers Association of America, they take this high moral ground when it comes to stuff that happens on the field. But I mean, I to what I think about, it's like, okay, well, look in the mirror. What the glass house and stones comparison. It's like, okay, great. Barry Bonds took steroids. Okay. He admitted to as such, but what's happening in your home? Like, behind closed doors, we don't hear much. We know about the athlete. We don't know about the player, the writer who's voting in, making the ballot selection.
Ryan, they got guys that are voting for the Hall of Fame that haven't watched a game in 20 years. They've got these grandfathered writers in there.
No, that's part of the problem.
That's
part of the problem.
I agree. And, from all parts of the country, from Detroit to New York to Boston to LA, everywhere, it's like they're grandfathered in. It's like the Supreme Court, and that to me is blasphemous. It's just like some of these guys that vote for the Heisman Trophy or these polls in college football that don't watch the games. The coaches that have their SIDs do it. I mean, it's flawed. And the baseball one is the most hypocritical one.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I don't know what they're going to do to change it. Because you got enough of the good old boys that are in it.
Yeah, there needs to be reform as to who can vote for players to be inducted into the Hall.
It's hardly believable to be a Hall of Fame anymore, and it's sad. It really is, because it's taken away the shine for the folks that have earned the right to be in there. And like I said, I go back and forth on Bonds and Clemens and McGuire getting in, those guys, and maybe part of it is because I think that I'm not a huge fan of the personalities of some of those guys, and I can't let that cloud my judgment because I'm falling into that trap.
And that's probably part of the reason why that Barry Bonds is not a Hall of Famer, because he was pretty gruff, pretty grouse against when he came to the media.
That's
you can't hold a grudge like that.
That's why Lou Whitaker's not in the Hall of Fame for the Tigers. And with all due respect to your Yankees, I'm going to say this: if Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell were on the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, and being the Keystone combination for 19 years like they were with a World Series, they'd be both of them, or there would be no question.
Yeah.
And if the media doesn't like you, Lou Whitaker was he's a Jehovah's Witness. He didn't stand up for the national anthem back then, which was like taboo. He and Chet Lemon, they didn't. It was against their religion, and he didn't talk to the media. And I'll tell you, it's cost him the Hall of Fame. And again, that goes to sports writer bias. And
shame.
And it is. And I know there's Yankees and I know there's Dodgers that are well deserving to be in that aren't in it. It's not just Detroit, but that's the example that I will take to my grave with why I think the Baseball Hall of Fame is flawed big time.
Yeah. Yeah. There needs to definitely be reform across every Hall of Fame period.
Yeah.
It's baseball, especially. Well, actually, Lou, I'm taking a look at the Twitter page of the Hockey Hall of Fame. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We're going to do a live reaction to all the nominees that have been announced so far.
Sweet.
All right. Stick around for the Brian Snow Show. This is the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. Thanks for sticking around. We'll be right back.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
Thursday nights are wrestling night on CSTV. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific to see all the amazing Next Level Pro Wrestling stars on Thursday Night Throwdown on CSTVNow.com and the CSTV app on your Roku device.
PK Tire Pros, your one-stop on-the-spot auto service headquarters for a complete line of quality tires and auto services. For years, we have provided the Stockton, California area with the latest products and unprecedented services for everything we sell. And for years, our customers have been coming back. Take a look around. If you don't find what you need, visit us in Stockton, California. From the latest and best in tire technology to the services required to keep your vehicle looking good and running great, PK Tire Pros can get you out on the road quickly and at an affordable price. Stop by soon to see why so many people consider PK Tire Pros to be the one-stop shop for all of their tire needs. At PK Tire Pros, our friendly and knowledgeable staff, quick and dependable service professionals, and affordable prices all come together to make driving out on a new set of tires easy. On top of that, we never tire of tires. Stop by and see us, and you'll be glad you did.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is The Brian Snow Show.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Brian Snow Show. Ryan McCawfee, Takeover. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm the host of the No Credentials Required podcast, filling in for Brian Snow this week. And to my right is my friend Lou Gamelin from the Captain Lou Extravaganza podcast. We're talking a myriad of sports topics today. And before we go into our next topic, we're going to take a trip back to the Fanatics feedback zone. The Time Stoppers, I believe, is our YouTube channel, says, "What the hell is going on?" Well, we're here talking sports. That's what we're doing. That's right. Thanks for joining. Thanks for stopping by. Chris Dietz says you could buy Andro. Talk about Andro. Yeah. You could buy it at GNC without a prescription. Yeah, that's how easy it is to get Andro. He continues and says, "Don't forget the biggest enablers, the media, also the biggest hypocrites of the steroid era." That's another one. Yeah, absolutely. The between the 4-letter network and Fox and all these other different media entities. Yeah. But before they turned their backs on McGuire and Sosa and Bonds, it was you can see them praising to high heavens about their achievements, and all of a sudden you see them come out and you see the steroid allegations come out and they turn their back immediately. It's gross.
I can't argue with that. And you talk about the media enabling. We can go back even when we were talking about Bob Huggins. He was put on such a high pedestal. These guys, the media did not want to out guys like Bonds and McGuire because they didn't want to be froze out for interviews. You're right. Great point.
This is why we're opinion journalists rather than beat writers, because at least with opinion journalists, you know where we stand in the position, and if our position needs to be corrected, we'll at least myself. I don't know about you, Lou. We admit that we're wrong.
100%.
Crazy. He goes on to say, Chris Dietz goes on to say, Pete Rose is a different story because he forfeited his Hall of Fame opportunity in a signed document with the commissioner. I believe it was, at that time, it was not Lombardi. I forgot his name. Giamatti. To keep the gambling evidence private, and he came clean to sell a book. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, if he would have came clean right away, I still say if he would have admitted it when he got caught, he's another one that had gotten away with this stuff his whole life. If he would have came clean and been believable, for lack of a better word, contrite right away, I still say that was 30 some years ago, 35 years ago, whatever. he probably would get in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah. Dietz also says Ty Cobb is a Hall of Famer. Character shouldn't matter. If I remember correctly, that the allegations against Ty Cobb about racism, I think those were debunked.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. So
well, if character mattered, half the guys in the NFL Hall of Fame wouldn't be in.
Yep, exactly. All right. So speaking of Hall of Fame, we're going to give our live reactions to the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions. And the Hockey Hall of Fame Twitter account has been leaking very, very slow as to who their inductees are for this year. So we're going to start. And their first inductee announcement, who is Ken Hitchcock, who is famous for as being the head coach for the St. Louis Blues, Dallas Stars, Philadelphia Flyers, Columbus Blue Jackets, Edmonton Oilers, and Hockey Canada. He has been voted in. He's been inducted as a builder for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Lou, your thoughts on Ken Hitchcock?
He bounced around quite a bit. I don't have a problem with that. He did get a Stanley Cup. Why not? He's definitely a builder. He's been around a long time, and he was colorful. No problem there.
Yep, he's currently listed as fourth in the all-time wins for coaches with 849 wins. Lindy Ruff and Paul Maurice are going up the ladder. Right behind him, Lindy Ruff with 834, Paul Maurice with 817. And this, I believe, is regular season wins. So between five stints as head coach, 1,598 games coach, 849 wins, of win percentage of .531. And he also, I believe, won a couple of gold medals with Team Canada in the Olympics. So congratulations to Coach Ken Hitchcock. The next announcement, the next inductee into the Hockey Hall of Fame. This is a posthumous induction. Pierre Lacroix is in in the builder category. He was the general manager for the Quebec Nordiques and Colorado Avalanche when they moved to Colorado in 1995. Architect of 2 Stanley Cup winning teams in 1995 and 2001. Pierre Lacroix, now posthumously in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a builder.
Oh, I can't argue with that either. As much as I despise the Colorado Avalanche, being a Detroit Red Wings fan, they have one of my all-time favorite goaltenders. Again, even though he was on the dreaded enemy, Patrick Waugh, loved his spunk. I loved his ability. And boy, Lacroix put together quite a team in Colorado, and he deserves to be in.
All right. The next and the first player to be nominated for, actually inducted into this year's class of the Hockey Hall of Fame, Tom Barrasso. Tom Barrasso, originally drafted by the Buffalo Sabres in 1984, came right out of high school, started in the NHL, won the Calder Trophy in 1984, was also elected an All-Star, was part of the All-Rookie team, and also won the Vezina Trophy in 1984 as a rookie. Had a pretty outstanding career. Elected to the All-Star game 2 times, won 1 Vezina, won 1 Jennings Trophy. He was also a two-time Stanley Cup winner. Across his career, was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins in 1989, and then he joined the team and won 2 Stanley Cups in 1991 and 1992 with those famed Pittsburgh Penguins teams. Went on to play for the Ottawa Senators and Carolina Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and finish his career in 2003 with the St. Louis Blues. So the career wins percentage, or career wins 226, won 2 Stanley Cups, 327 GAA, 22 career shutouts, and over 25,000 minutes played in the regular season in the NHL. So, Lou, your thoughts about Tom Barrasso being elected to the Hall of Fame?
I'm not too upset about that. He won a couple Stanley Cups. The early part of his career, I thought he was very, very good. He Detroit could never solve him back in the 80s and in the early 90s when he was with Pittsburgh. Maybe a little surprised, but not really. I he had a long career, played on some teams that weren't the greatest, but I could live with that.
Yeah, solid career with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Won 2 Stanley Cups, Vezina Trophy winner, Calder Trophy winner. It's a great year in 1984, right out of high school.
Yeah, that's
right
amazing.
out of high school, and that's the amazing part is he came right out of high school in Massachusetts, and played immediately in the NHL and was a Buffalo Sabre. The people associate Tom Barrasso with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but gotta remember he was originally a Buffalo Sabre.
I forgot he was on Pittsburgh, and then until I read up on him, because I always associated him with the Buffalo Sabres. That's a great call.
The next inductee into the class of 2023 for the Hockey Hall of Fame, Henrik Lundqvist. His first year of eligibility is elected into the Hall of Fame. 7th round pick of the New York Rangers in 2000, 205th overall. Didn't play in the NHL until 2005, 2006, but after that had a pretty legendary career. 2-time All-Star, or 3-time All-Star, 1-time Vezina winner in 2012, backstopped the New York Rangers to the Stanley Cup final in 2014. Unfortunately, they lost to the Los Angeles Kings in 5 games, but pretty outstanding career. 459 total wins, 25,000 saves, over 51,000 minutes played in the NHL in the regular season. Heck of a career, and especially for a first-year player. Lou, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny is you start to, and I'm not going to knock his career. He's a Hall of Famer. I look at some of these numbers and I think, okay, he did not win a Stanley Cup. You can look at a guy like Curtis Joseph, who has got as many wins, I think maybe even a few more. He's darn close. I think Curtis Joseph had 455. He's not in. So, but, he did get to the Stanley Cup final and he was dominant. I will say that he definitely was the face of the Rangers for a lot of years, and he carried them a lot. So I can't argue with it. He is a Hall of Fame goalie. I was surprised he was considered a lock, but he got in. So, congratulations.
Yeah, let me correct myself here. So he was in the NHL first All-Star team, as in collectively for the league, in 2012, and the second All-Star team in 2013. So that's like all pro in football. So that's why I meant. Yeah. So he was elected to the All-Star game. 1, 2. Let's see, how many times was he elected to the All-Star game? Trying to find the right places here. It doesn't really give me a whole lot of things here. The hockey reference is kind of squiffy. 5 All-Star games, 5 times in the All-Star game. He's 9th all time in career NHL games played. First in was 6th in, he's 6th all time in wins, 10th all time in minutes. So long established career. It's a pretty good career. I mean, he played 12 seasons in the NHL, all with the New York Rangers. He's a legend at Madison Square Garden. So, and I probably need to correct myself on Tom Barrasso as well. Let's see. Only played in the All-Star game once. But he's a 3-time award winner. He was a Calder Trophy winner in 84, Vezina winner, Vezina Trophy winner in 84, and Williams Jennings Trophy winner in 84, 85 as the best goalie tandem as voted by the players. He was first in minutes in 1985, 86, 38 career shutouts. Let me just see how many. Let me just correct myself on how many minutes he played. Doesn't really show because it's let's actually hang on. Yeah, 25,000 minutes, 895 career play. That's with Pittsburgh exclusively, but he played over 44,000 minutes with 277 career wins. So Tom Barrasso pretty I would say definitely deserving of the Hall of Fame, especially for the era he was in with all those players
Yeah.
Like Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, Mario Lemieux, who became teammates with. Pretty impressive stats for a guy who had to basically
agree.
endure getting peppered with shots
I agree.
throughout his career.
It was a different playing style back then for sure.
For sure. I would say today's style is like a hybrid between the 1980s wagon burning style,
Yeah,
burn the wagon style, and I would say like the early 90s, where it was not so much barn burner, but you had, you've got some athletes out there. So the next inductee into the Hockey Hall of Fame is a female athlete. It was Caroline Ouellette, who played with Team Canada and also played in the former CWHL. She was also with the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs. She played there in college. She was part of 4 gold medal teams with Canada: 2002, 2006, 2010, and 2014. She was also part of teams who won gold medals in the IIHF World Women's Championships. She won 6 gold medals and 7 silver medals in the IIHF World Championships. Her career International League, she in 59 games in World Championships, she scored 23 goals and 45 assists. In the Olympics, 20 games, 11 goals, 19 assists. She was in the CWHL, which was the precursor to the PHF, the professional hockey, which is the Women's Association, which was the former NWHL. She was the top forward and top scorer in 2009, the MVP in 2009 and 2011, and she is also, let me see here, she's also the NHL leader in 2004 in points. For the 2004-2005 season, she averaged 2.38 points per game as a Minnesota Duluth Lady Bulldog. So I don't know how familiar you are with the women's side, Lou, but I would say from those statistics, Caroline Ouellette is definitely a deserving member of this induction class.
You pretty much you explained it all there. She's put up the numbers, and I'm glad that they recognized her and were able to get her in there, because all the accolades that she's gotten, and all the gold medals, and one of the pioneers maybe of women's sports, and just her record speaks for itself.
All right, we're continuing on with our reactions to the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions. Our next induction and our next inductee for the class of 2023 is Pierre Turgeon. Pierre Turgeon, who spent his career with 6 NHL teams, including the St. Louis Blues, Buffalo Sabres, New York Islanders, which is where I most know him from, especially in the 1993 playoffs, the Montreal Canadiens, Dallas Stars, and Colorado Avalanche. Let me just bring up his statistics in just a second here. And Lou, I'm pretty sure you might be familiar with Pierre Turgeon as a member of the St. Louis Blues and Dallas Stars.
Oh, yeah.
Because he played against the Red Wings so many times.
I remember reading, I think he had the most points of anybody that was not in the Hall of Fame, like 1,300 and some points. And
1,327 points in 1,294 games.
I mean, that is a Hall of Fame career right there. And I know you can only get so many people in the Hall of Fame every year. It just seems like, it's well-deserved. He played a lot of years, a lot of games, obviously. I know he didn't get a Stanley Cup, but, he still had
shame
97 points, or almost 100 points in 100 playoff games. So, I think he deserves to be in.
Yeah. So first overall pick of the 1987 NHL draft with the Buffalo Sabres, won the Lady Byng Trophy in 1992-1993 as the most gentlemanly player, which usually translates to least the least penalty minutes in the NHL during the season. His brother is Sylvain Turgeon. So let's look at his stats. So overall, let's see, 515 goals, 812 assists, only 139 penalty minutes. I'm sorry, not 139, 452 penalty minutes, but still, he only averaged the highest amount of penalty minutes he had in one season was 44 in 1995-96 with Montreal. Otherwise, you look at his stats for penalty minutes. It's usually in the 20s or the low or in the teens. In 1997. In 1996-1997, as a member of the St. Louis Blues in 2000, he only had 8 penalty minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
He only played in 52 games, so to be fair.
Well, okay.
But he was still a nominee for the Selke and for the Lady Byng Trophy that year. Was also So other stats for Pierre Turgeon. He went to 4 All-Star games. He is 32nd all-time in assists with 812, which is saying a lot. Let's see here. He's 26th all-time in game-winning goals with 86. So it's a heck of a career. Heck of a career for Pierre Turgeon. Well deserving. I know there's a lot of other names out there that you could also say deserves to be there, but Pierre Turgeon, I got no complaints.
No, me either.
All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. But when we come back, I have one more inductee to talk about, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be near and dear to Lou's heart. But before we do that, we'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with another edition of the Brian Snow Show, the Rye McCawfee Takeover with my buddy Lou Gamelin. Stick around.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
One of the great things about ordering meals from Mother of Macros is that you can do it from the comfort of your own home. Click the national or local delivery link to access the menu, and we'll ship the meals right to your door. We understand you won't always have time to plan, shop, prepare, and cook to provide healthy nutrition for your family, so the process is simple and saves you hours. We know you're busy, so our meals are professionally prepared and packaged. You only need to heat them up and enjoy. We provide macro-balanced, delicious meals chock full of fresh, local ingredients with none of the stuff you don't want to eat. Plus, our menu changes every week, keeping your taste buds wanting more. We take care of your meals so you can worry about everything else on your list. Mother of Macros.
I don't want to grow up. I'm basically a man-child. 2005 Burning Man. I put a single Mitsubishi 170-watt panel on the roof of my F-250, and I killed the batteries within like 15 minutes of the first time turning them on. So that's when I first got into solar. I was blown away by the customer service at Battleborn.
We want them to be happy with our product because in the long run, they're the ones who are out there using it.
When you used to buy something American, like a car, something you knew was built really well, that's what I think of with Battleborn.
Hey, y'all, Snowman here. Catch me, Cole Johnson, Wise El Jefe, and the usual cast of characters as we bring it to you every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. It's called Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson, and it's right here on CSTV and CSTVnow.com. Join us, won't you?
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
And welcome back to the Brian Snow Show. Ooh, there's a little pink there. Welcome back to the Brian Snow Show. Rye McCawfee Takeover with my buddy Lou Gamelin of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So we were talking about the Hockey Hall of Fame and their inductees. We're doing a live reaction to the inductees as we discover who's part of the class of 2023. And the final inductee for the class of 2023 is someone near and dear to the hearts of Detroit Red Wings fans. Not only was he on the Detroit Red Wings, but he started in his career in Calgary as a member of the Calgary Flames. Also concluded his career with stints in San Jose and Florida. Mike Vernon, goaltender, is now part of the class of 2023 of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Lou, how you feeling?
I'm great. I'm happy for him. He won. You mentioned it with the Flames in '89. I think he went in '86. Calgary got to the finals, and I think they got beat by Montreal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they were part of the gentleman's sweep in Montreal in 1986.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Then I think he was in goal with Detroit when the Devils swept him in '95. And then
yes, he was.
The crazy thing about '97 too, when he won it, is he wasn't the starter until the playoffs, and because Osgood was the starter, and then all he did was go 16-4, and I think his goals against was right on. It was under 2. It was an incredible run in '97, and I'm happy for him. I think he deserves to be in. I think he won about 380 games or something like that. I was reading up on it yesterday, and obviously he's going to be remembered for the big fight he had with Patrick Waugh in '97 there in March in the redemption game for the Red Wings. A great career. He was a winner and very justified. It's a great goalie class going into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah, pretty good goalie class with Tom Barrasso and Henrik Lundqvist. So Mike Vernon, career at a glance, selected in the third round of the 1981 NHL draft by the Calgary Flames, made his debut during the 1982-83 season when he appeared in only 2 games. 2 games, 11 goals allowed, and it was 0-2. Didn't get his first win until the 1985-86 season, where he only played in 18 games that year, but finished 9-3 with 3 ties, and was part of that team that went to the Stanley Cup final that year. He appeared in 21 games in that playoff, went 12-9, and as we mentioned, they were gentlemanly swept by the Montreal Canadiens in 5 games during that season. But he remained in net for the Calgary Flames. He went back to the Stanley Cup final in 1989. During that season, this is probably his best season as a goalie.
Yeah,
he played in 52 games. He went 37-6-5 in 1989, and he was second for the Vezina Trophy in voting for the Vezina Trophy that season. But in 1989, he went 16-5 as a member of the Calgary Flames, was in net for that team, finished with a .905 save percentage, and probably a pretty steady career until they went to Detroit in 1995. Went to the Stanley Cup final in 1995, was swept by my New Jersey Devils, but we won't mention that to Lou.
That's all right. You can talk about all you want.
But 1997, that magical year, that magical season of 1997, he only started in 33 games that season. Started in 33 games, but as you mentioned, Lou, he was the starter. He was the majority of the games that he was in. 20 games in that season, went 16-4 with a 1.76 goals against average, led all goalies with 1,229 minutes, and he won the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Well deserved.
As the Detroit Red Wings swept the Philadelphia Flyers in 4 games. But talk about that magical season a little bit, Lou, and with Mike Vernon in net.
Coming off getting swept by the Devils in '95, things were a little salty. And then in '96, they got beaten 6 games, or I think it was by Colorado.
Yeah.
In conference finals.
The infamous Darren McCarty line. I can't believe they shake
and then
that guy's
97,
hand.
They got Shanahan. They picked him up earlier in the year that year. And there was a lot of pressure on Detroit. Yzerman almost got dealt to Ottawa, believe it or not. And then Yeah, and then they made the run. That game against Colorado, the crazy thing about that game, Ryan, was, Vernon and Waugh got in they got in the fisticuffs after the whole thing started with Lemieux and Darren McCarty, and then Shanahan, of course, getting into it with Waugh to begin with. But Detroit won that game in overtime, and that was Mike Vernon's 300th career win. And Patrick Waugh took the puck after the game was over and rolled it down the ice to make sure that Patrick Waugh got it. So, that's just kind of that was really cool, I thought. And then Detroit went on their run and they swept Philadelphia. And I remember what Brendan Shanahan said. They were skating around before the opening game of that series, and they knew they were going to win. They had them intimidated in the pregame skate against the Flyers.
And against that Legion of Doom, and they sent Legion of Doom Flyers too.
Eric Lindros, and and it was just it was a magical season. And first time Detroit won in 42 years. Started out, a mini dynasty, if you will, 6 Stanley Cup appearances in 13 years, including the one in Jersey. It was a fun time to be a hockey fan in Detroit, and Vernie was one of the reasons.
Before we take our last commercial break, I just wanted to ask you, during that 90-7 season, how huge was it for the Red Wings to avenge that Western Conference Finals win against Colorado to make it to the Stanley Cup final? How huge was that?
Oh, it was amazing. The monkey was on their back. They were considered the team that just couldn't do it. They weren't being called chokers, but losing that series to the Devils. The year before that, they won the President's Cup trophy, and they got beat by the San Jose Sharks,
and in convincing fashion too.
Yes.
96. That 96 team was probably outside of this year's Bruins team was probably the best team that never won the Stanley Cup.
That 96 team almost rivaled the 2002 Detroit Red Wings team that was loaded with all those Hall of Famers. But yeah, that 96 team should have never lost. They were loaded. And so there was a lot of pressure, and beating Colorado in the conference finals was big. And it was almost like a breath of fresh air, or the weight was lifted. As a fan, I was nervous because of that. All right, we finally got over them. Hopefully they didn't let up against the Flyers, but the rest was history. They swept them.
Yep. All right, we're going to take one more commercial break. We come back, we're going to discuss a little bit NBA before we wrap things up for this edition of the Brian Snow Show. But thanks for sticking around, everybody who's been watching, whether you're watching on live or on the replay. We appreciate you sticking around. This is the Brian Snow Show, the Ryan McCawfee Takeover with my buddy Lou Gamelin. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is the Brian Snow Show.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
If you talk, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk back here. You can do it if you try.
He was only 58 years old when he passed away. That outcome could have been different.
Colorado happens to be one of the worst states for radon levels.
It's in our ground, and it seeps up.
The more you breathe radon, the more chance you have of DNA being hit and the cell mutated. The EPA estimates 22,000 lung cancer deaths a year caused by radon.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Have fun. Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
Alex is just...
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Where sports is the base, life and fun are the results. This is The Brian Snow Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Brian Snow Show. This is the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time, same bat channels. Whether you're watching on Snowman Multimedia YouTube channel, the Shady Sports Network, the David 3000 Network, on Facebook, on Twitch, or on CSTV, we welcome you. Come on, stop on by. If you're watching on replay or you're watching live, we thank you for stopping by. And again, I'm joined by my buddy Lou Gamelin of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're going to do some NBA before we wrap things up here, about the last 5 or 6 minutes of the show. Something important happened I wouldn't say important, but there's a changing of the guard in Charlotte, North Carolina this week. Michael Jordan sold the majority ownership of the Charlotte Bobcats / Hornets, the Bobnets, to a couple of billionaires and decided I'm not going to be the majority owner anymore. So, Lou, I've got 2 questions for you. Do you consider Michael Jordan's tenure as majority owner of the Bobcats / Hornets to be a failure? And why couldn't he attract more free agents to come play for him?
Boy, that's a great question. Both of them are great questions. You would think that players would like to play for an all-time great. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's things that are going on behind the scenes, that the stories of him not being easy to work with or work for. I don't know. I mean, as far as a failure as a GM or an owner, the guy made money. Now, I know every owner makes money. Every franchise in every league now makes money the way they, these have skyrocketed over the years. I've thought about that. That's, how many teams are successful in pro sports? Only a handful. I would say maybe it is a failure because they haven't made the playoffs. Not that often.
I think they made the playoffs last year.
Yeah. That's really about it, if I'm not mistaken. Even teams as sad sack as the Pistons have made it more often in the last, 10 to 15 years. And so, there's so many questions. And, ever since he was done as a player, when he was a GM, he was not very good. Mm-hmm. And again, it just proves that how many ex-players of his level are successful. Maybe it's because their expectations as a player and now as a GM or an owner are too unrealistic. This day and age, the different type of player, I don't know. I mean, I look at some of the ex-players that were successful GMs, and I look at Joe Dumars. He won a championship with Detroit as a GM in 2004, but he was also the catalyst of Darko Milicic, who we could have had Dwayne Wade or Carmelo Anthony here. And so, I mean, maybe he struck lightning in a bottle. I don't know. But failure as an owner, maybe he won. His wallet got fatter. But yeah, those are great questions.
So in his tenure as owner of the Charlotte Hornets, Bobcats/Hornets, they went to the playoffs 3 times. They went in 2010, 2014, and 2016. They did not advance in either of those playoffs. They didn't. They actually, the Hornets have not advanced into the second round of the playoffs since 2002 when they were.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the last time they won a playoff series, and they won. They beat the Orlando Magic in 5 games, or 4 games, excuse me. Back when we had five round first round games. I believe they were still the Bobcats then, if I'm not mistaken. They didn't change their name to the Hornets until can't remember the last time they the last time they were known as the Charlotte Bobcats was so that 2002 season was their final season in Charlotte before they moved it to New Orleans, became the Pelicans. And then the Bobcats came in 2005. And in 2015, they changed their name back to the Hornets because I guess the Pelicans, the New Orleans Hornets changed their names to the Pelicans. And then they decided, all right, we're going to become the Hornets again because it's a better brand. So, I mean, I don't follow much of the NBA as much anymore as I used to. I don't follow it religiously. I pay attention just because it's a certain 4-letter network wants to put it in my face every 2 seconds. But I wouldn't consider Michael Jordan's tenure as a majority owner a complete failure because he managed to keep the team in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And when you think Charlotte Hornets, you don't think Michael Jordan. The first people I think of when I think Charlotte Hornets are Lonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson.
There you go.
And Muggsy Bogues. Those are the 3 people I think of when I think of Charlotte Hornets. I don't think of Michael Jordan.
No.
When it comes to the Charlotte Hornets.
No, me either.
So maybe he needed to distance himself a little bit from that. Maybe he was tired of sinking his money into a franchise that couldn't make the playoffs. They've only been to the playoffs 3 times since he became a majority owner of that team. And maybe you just need to step back and say, all right, I'm not going to sink my money into the sinking ship. I'll try to get out. I mean, he's $3 billion richer now.
Can't argue with that, can you?
No, you can't. It's the return on investment's probably you probably broke even.
Yeah.
But for in terms of the free agents as to why he couldn't attract enough free agents to come to Charlotte, maybe this generation doesn't really they don't know about the things that he did when he played. I mean, you'll see it. They didn't see it live. They'll see it in highlights. They'll see it in the documentaries. They'll see it in. I got a pair of Jordans. Okay, yeah, you know him for a shoe, but you don't know him as the basketball player.
And I think too is they're not one of the glamour teams, and you need to strike lightning in a bottle to get a player to go to a team like Detroit or Charlotte or
Sacramento.
Sacramento. If you're not LA, you're not New York, you're not Boston, fair or unfair, you got to strike lightning in a bottle and you've got to win consistently. And they don't. And so if someone's got the opportunity to play in LA or Charlotte, I mean, I could see why they would go to LA as far as Charlotte or New York or whatever. I mean, that's unfortunate. And that's true just about in any sport now.
I mean, my thing would have been if I were a player, if I were in the NBA, and my agent would be saying, "Hey, you want to play in Charlotte?" Nah. Michael Jordan is the owner. I might consider it.
Yeah,
but I know absolutely nobody on that team.
I don't either.
I mean, the only players I knew were Larry Johnson, Lonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, Vlade Divac. He was the guy who was traded for Kobe Bryant. So It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Good luck to the Hornets. I know. Well, here's the other thing too. They're also in a state that also has North Carolina and Duke basketball, and to a lesser extent, North Carolina State. So you're in the triad. Yes. You're competing with the triad for attention, for not only media attention but also fan attention, and that's a tough draw.
Boy, it sure is. That's an excellent point. They are definitely kings there, and I think they always will be.
Which is a wonder of how the Carolina Hurricanes have gone on for this long without by competing with them. That's an amazing stretch there too.
Yeah. Hey, they're relevant and all good PR. It does a lot for them.
True. Those bunch of jerks. Anyway, so Lou, I'm going to give you the opportunity for the last minute or so to plug your stuff. Where can people find you? Where can people find your podcast?
Well, we're on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. We invite you to subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of great shows on there. The Captain Lou Extravaganza. We got a cool thing in the works that I'm putting together starting in the fall. I think you're going to like it. We have a lot of great guests on the show. We had an awesome one today. If you like pro wrestling, Sean Oliver, who hosts the Click This podcast with Kevin Nash, was on talking about the Iron Sheik and his upcoming book about ECW. You can catch us right now Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And again, we're on YouTube and also where you can find your podcast.
All right. Thanks, Lou. Appreciate you stopping by and talking sports for the last couple hours.
Loved it.
Appreciate it. Tomorrow I'll be back 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific time. The Ryan McCawfee Takeover continues. And again, on Friday, Drew Willingham will be hosting the final installment for this week of the Brian Snow Show. So for Captain Lou, I'm Ryan McCarthy. Again, catch my podcast, No Credentials Required. We're going to have a Saturday brunch edition on Saturday morning in lieu of this week. We usually record on Mondays, but this week, because I'm hosting for Brian Snow, because I'm guest hosting this show, decided to push up to Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel. I'll advertise that tomorrow too. So again, for Captain Lou, I'm Ryan McCarthy. I've been guest hosting the Brian Snow Show. This has been the Ryan McCawfee Takeover. Come back tomorrow for more sports talk. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for tuning into The Brian Snow Show, where sports is the base, life and fun are the results.